Welcome back to Yoga Biz Champ. I'm your host, Michael J. And in today's episode, we're taking you behind the scenes with someone who's helping shape the future of community studios, not just with tech, but with real heart and care. My guest is Eddie Arpin, one of the co-founders of OfferingTree, a company you've heard me mention many times on this podcast, and they are a sponsor. And yes, I'm proudly partnered with them. But today isn't about the features and the software. It's about why they do what they do. Eddie shares the origin story of OfferingTree and how it was built not from a business playbook, but from a real desire to support yoga teachers and studio owners, people who serve their communities every day. We talk about what it really takes to grow a studio today, the importance of mentorship and shared knowledge, and how OfferingTree is investing in more than just software. They're investing in people. If you're a studio owner looking for meaningful support, deeper connection, and practical insights from someone who truly gets the business world, this one's for you. Let's dive in. Welcome to another episode of Yoga Biz Champ. I'm thrilled today to have one of my partners, Eddie Arpin from the OfferingTree. And OfferingTree is a software and web booking platform, all in one kind of thing. We'll get into that a little bit, but we're also going to talk about the evolution of the industry since Eddie got into it. So welcome, Eddie.
Hi, Michael. Thanks for having me. We always have a good time chatting, so I'm glad you're having me on here.
We always
do. Record this one.
Yeah, I mean, this is not about the software, but we will talk about the software for sure, because it's kind of the central part of, our relationship and your business. But I'd love to, so most people probably hear my ads on here. You're a sponsor of this podcast, and full disclosure, I'm a partner with OfferingTree. And, but I really want to sort of talk about the industry and what you're seeing. But I'd love to hear, first of all, your story. I'm always interested in that spark. And you told me a little bit on a pre-chat the other day, which I thought was really interesting. But what was the journey up to that spark where you're like, I'm going to create this software? So I'd love to kind of know your background and what took you to that moment.
Yeah, for sure. So I guess I'll back way up. I've always been an active person. I was into sports when I was younger, and movement, and in college I played a little bit of sports, but I started getting into meditation. Actually, one of my roommates started a meditation club at the University of Minnesota. Okay. And I actually met my co-founder. He was sort of a co-founder of that meditation club with my
Is that
roommate.
right?
Yeah.
So who was that? Which partner? By the way, there's three partners, right?
There's three active partners, and Alex Haley is the partner that I met. He's no longer active in OfferingTree, but he was there at the very beginning. He led the meditation club with my roommate, and I was going to that. And my dad was into meditation growing up, and so I've always been kind of interested in it, and my roommate got me into it. So that was where I met Alex, and
what were you studying? I'm imagining you, because you're pretty geeky, right? What were you studying?
I'm a geek. You mean what was I studying in college? It was mechanical engineering, which is totally different from what I'm doing now. I was at a point doing autonomous driving with buses in Minnesota. So I was doing a lot of different, really geeky stuff before I started OfferingTree. But yeah, so, Alex and I just continued to be friends. He ended up managing a community-based yoga studio in Minneapolis called Yoga Soul. And they were donation-based, which was pretty cool, because there was I don't know how many donation-based yoga studios you come across, but I think they were one of the only ones, if not the only one, in the Twin Cities area. And they were doing really well, actually. And they were just doing pen and paper. All of their stuff was pen and paper.
Well, yeah, that was me back in the day. We had a big binder, just tracking the punches, crossing them off.
Yeah, they just had a box where they would just do cash basically, and write your name on a piece of paper, throw it in the box, and that with your donation amount, and that's how they did everything. I don't think they were taking registration before class or anything. It was just kind of show up. And, they wanted something better. And they ended up trying to use, they tried to use MindBody. And I think like at the time, I don't know, like MindBody, they just seemed like it didn't really work for like the donation based part of it. And the fact that people were showing up at the time, it was like, Alex said, it's killing our vibe. Like we have people lining out the doors and it just like, we're, like the software is getting in the way of the relationship between the studio and the students. And so like, they just didn't like that. And so but they didn't really have, they didn't feel like they had another choice. So Alex, at the time I was working, I kind of moved over from doing engineering stuff to more just pure software. And I was working for a company called Sports Engine, which kind of does a very similar thing to what OfferingTree does now, but for the youth sport market. Like they were providing like websites and registration and payments and like some, I would say youth athlete, parent, coach communication tools for youth sports. So Alex, I was kind of Alex's software guy, and he's like, hey, can you design a booking platform for my donation-based independent community yoga studio? And we're like, you got $500,000? Because that's how much it's going to be a big project. But I was like, maybe there's a business here. Like, how many studios are there like you guys? Like maybe there's a need here. So that was kind of the spark. We ended up talking to a lot of people in the industry, trying to do our due diligence to make sure there's a real need here. And, what we ended up deciding on for how we're going to start is actually not serving the studio market, but serving the individual yoga teachers, because there were
the solopreneurs.
Yeah. Cause like it was such a struggle for them, right? Like to make money as a yoga teacher, you're trying to teach 1 million classes. And, on top of that, like how to manage your business, even thinking about your business like a business. There were a lot of challenges there so we decided to start there actually. And we could make a simpler product for them. Like the studio needed a little bit more, and there seemed to be tools out there for studios already. And we thought there's nothing really for the individual yoga teacher. So it was a while before now we can serve studios as well. But at the beginning we were just serving, yoga teachers, personal trainers.
Well, there's a lot more solopreneurs out there than studios for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. From a numbers perspective.
Yeah. I'm curious, when you started it, because you are a website builder, like a full-fledged website builder, landing pages and all the bells and whistles in that, but you are also a booking platform plus payment. And so did those, and more now, but did those three things come together at once, or was it just one piece?
They did. We probably bit off way more than we should have. To be honest with you, if I could do it all over again, I'd be like, let's just start smaller. So, because we were doing this nights and weekends, so we kept our day jobs, and this was like kind of a passion project. We really, this was really fun for us to do, and like to talk to these folks and serve these people. I mean, like I still love the industry. It's like such a great community to work with. But yeah, so we're thinking, what these people need is they need a website. And at the time, this was 2017, like WordPress was kind of a big thing. Like a lot of people were still using that, Wix and Squarespace, yes, were in existence, but a lot of people were like thinking like WordPress is what I build my websites on. And it's just so complicated, right? So you got that piece, you got to build the website. And even then, like Wix and Squarespace aren't quite what they are today, but it was a challenge just to do that. And then it was a challenge to integrate that with the booking platform, and then integrating that with like your email and client communication. Like there were so many roadblocks for these folks to have success. It's like, what if we just built a platform that had all these things combined and it was super easy? So like we had the website, the booking, the payments.
And so payments then would have been, the payments then would have been when Stripe was just kind of getting ripe, I would imagine.
Actually we started, you kind of jogged my memory when we talked the other day, but we actually started with this company called Braintree, which was acquired by PayPal, but because Stripe didn't even, you couldn't even do multiple merchants with Stripe yet. So you couldn't even provision, like as a yoga teacher, you couldn't even add your bank account, create a little Stripe account underneath our Stripe account so that you could process payments. That didn't even exist yet. So now we have Stripe, but which accepts like all the credit cards.
Well, I feel like I feel like Stripe leveled the playing field for the studio owners in particular, because, well, and for solopreneurs, it made them be able to kind of act like you're a full-on business. And when I had my studio, I had to negotiate with my bank for my rates. And then every year, based on volume, I would most people forget to do that. I didn't. but every year, we would try and get our rates down. It was a whole big thing. Whereas I think Stripe just came in and said, this is the rate, this is flat fee on this, and away we go. And I feel like anybody could then jump on that.
Yeah, for sure. And at the time, Braintree did the same thing, but like Stripe just did it better. I don't know the details, but like Stripe just took off, and probably nobody's heard of Braintree. I don't know. I mean, people have, but not as much. So that's kind of how we started, and then it just kind of grew from there. We were still working nights and weekends for a few years on it, just really kind of getting out in the community and organic growth. And it wasn't until the pandemic where we really started to see a big uptick. Because
and then where did Zoom come in there for you? Because I'm just curious, because especially in the pandemic, I mean, I was teaching how to build communities online during that time, and I was teaching online as well. And so I, as a solopreneur, was able to flip the switch and lights on, let's go, with the tools that are available. So I'm kind of curious how the Zoom came in there too. Pandemic.
And I hope we don't trigger anybody here with talking about the pandemic with how rough it was for the industry, because I mean, but owners,
it did catapult us forward quickly on things that would have come eventually, right? We did it very quickly in a short condensed time, I think.
Yeah, and I think it was really a catalyst to the industry realizing that they need the digital tools that they enjoy today. I think a lot of times people were like, I can get by with just social media. I don't really need to focus on my website, or I don't really need to, and I think that I don't know what you see, but even just the booking platforms and the capabilities have just really kind of changed since the pandemic. And I think the pandemic was a little bit of a catalyst for making sure that studios and teachers are getting out in front of their audience in different ways than they were before. But yeah, I mean, so we didn't have a Zoom integration when the pandemic started, but what we did have was we had the concept of being able to have an online class. And so you would just have to create the Zoom beforehand, or, we thought, people use Zoom, Google Meets. There was this Jitsi thing that was totally free that people could use, and just put in the link to the class. They wouldn't get the link until it was booked. But then as soon as the pandemic hit and it was okay, now there's so many more online classes. We worked really hard, got the Zoom integration out pretty fast. That allowed you to then not have to create those Zoom meetings separately, and it would just be created by OfferingTree as soon as you scheduled the class.
Yeah,
and then
that was the game
really
changer.
Have to worry about Zoom.
Yeah. For me as a solopreneur at that time that was teaching, that was a game changer for me, because I started with a spreadsheet, literally a spreadsheet, and have to manually email a Zoom link to people. And then I think as soon as the booking platforms came in and said, we'll automatically create the link and send it out by email, that was just game changer magic for that period, I think.
Yeah, it made it so much easier, right? From an admin standpoint to run those classes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was, that we saw a lot of growth through there. And then obviously, unfortunately.
And that would have been right for the solopreneur, because a lot of studios closed at that time, right? That was just so there was just nothing going on for a long time with the studios. But a lot of teachers at those studios also jumped online and started doing their own thing as well as studios. But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, 30% of gyms and studios closed permanently from the pandemic, and many more closed temporarily while the pandemic was going on. But I thought what was really cool about how the industry kind of persevered through that was, the demand was still there for yoga and for every other modality. And I thought the teachers did a tremendous job of figuring out how to provide that needed service to everybody in the industry during the pandemic. And like the fact how quickly they were able to pivot to like having their classes online and, remember all the threads on what's the best microphone, what's the best video
it was more than that for me. It was like, well, I my iMac was on a Lazy Susan, and so I would do my coaching in the morning and then turn it into my living room at the time, and then I'd have professional lighting. I'd flip on and then it was like earbuds, making sure the sound was connected in, and then boom, away we go, and then close that up, and then come back to coaching after lunch. And so, but the convenience of it at the time was, I mean, honestly, just I think game changing, especially for the solopreneur.
Yeah, you were like MacGyver there, figuring out using a Lazy Susan. That's the ingenuity that we're seeing with everybody, and that was really cool to see everybody pivot on a dime and still meet the needs of like the community. So and it was a really hard time, but it was cool to play a part in helping teachers, be able to teach.
Which has now evolved. Well, in the studio realm, it's evolved into quite a lot of studios now into hybrid, where it's either or both, live in person or online, right?
Yeah, and I think like that was all the rage, sort of like kind of in that transition period, and maybe I think it's continued to kind of morph and find its place with like online content, whether it's live or whether it's on demand, and just like having that on demand piece where in case someone's on vacation, they can still be interacting with your studio and getting that, like, being able to still take classes in a sense on their own time and in their own location.
Yeah.
I think studios are still using on demand and remote sort of ways of still providing their service in like really cool ways. So,
So your platform has evolved, I think, now. So, I mean, it's got a lot going on in there now, and a lot of bells and whistles that you continually adding on. But, along with that Zoom thing, you started being able to do online content, like purchase online content, video storage and viewing. And so what's kind of evolved there for you?
Yeah, I think being able to not only the live stream and hybrid, but then also having that like on demand content where people can consume that like wherever they are, whenever they are, whenever. And also, like, I thought what was cool about having that integrated with the booking platform versus using like something separate for your on demand is you can still use your packages and your memberships, and you can still have all that, like, still know, what your clients are consuming. And I think it like provided smarter ways to use like memberships, to give like maybe your higher tier memberships more access. Yeah, exactly. So, I just think like, having that all under one hood, and I know other software platforms have that too, I think is a pretty tremendous advantage. And so, we felt really good about building that, and it's definitely like what people wanted. So, and we're still making improvements today, to those things. So, particularly around like courses and like longer form on demand content.
Okay. Yeah, it's just added. I think these things have added on extra revenue streams for studios and for solopreneurs, right? It's like we're recording this content or we're creating this content, so now we can store it and package it up or bundle it or have it as a perk on top of a package. So I think it just gives a lot more variety for streams.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like more ways of, serving the needs of your community. And like, I think that probably also helps with retention and things like that. Like they don't feel like they have to go in all the time to get the service, right? Like they can still get value at home or on a business trip or wherever. And that might probably elevates the value that they feel with their membership or their connection to the studio.
Yeah. So I'm kind of curious, this evolvement of your platform has kind of, I imagine it's come from the kind of the demands and requests and of your community, right? Which you really do have a strong, tight community, especially on Facebook. It's very active. So is that how the kind of software development was, like by people saying, we need this extra feature, we need this?
Absolutely. I mean, I would say a huge percentage of what we do is based on the feedback that we get from our users. Obviously we're like looking around at like what else, taking what we're hearing, translating that to what we should build. But we 100% like listen to our customers, listen to the community, try to be as reactive to that as possible. And Arvin, my other co-founder, does a tremendous job. I think we're still learning how to do that the best way, but yeah, I mean, it's been fun too, because I feel like we're really trying to have, I think like some software companies, and I'm not trying to rag on other software companies, but sometimes it feels like they're just throwing their stuff over the wall. And we've always wanted to be intentional about, and this is like coming from some other places that I've worked, like we're really trying to have a more of a relationship with our customers and have it be a two-way. Yeah. Like not just be like, okay, we're up here and we're just building stuff and here it is. Like we want to definitely be more collaborative and relational with how, we interact with our users.
Yeah, I think that's something that's really, for me as a partner, is very attractive, like for a studio, for a software, because you guys really show that you care about the people. So kind of, because you care, the software's evolved. And so this is where we came together a little bit. And so it's now evolved into, which is more my audience here, which is the studio software. So can you kind of tell me about how that kind of evolved?
Yeah. So, as the platform matured and we started, having more bells and whistles, it really got to the place where we wanted to be kind of intentional and especially as a lot of our solo people coming out of the pandemic were wanting to open studios. And we kind of had this decision point of, do we want to continue to serve these people as they evolve their business and start opening studios? And we decided like, yes, we do. We want to be there, for the whole journey. So, we started, really, I mean, a lot of it was working on, being able to invite staff members and teachers to the platform, being able to give them like roles and permissions, kind of all the things that go through that, like with appointments, being able to like set their availabilities. We just released the Google Calendar integration. So now, every staff member, teacher, and owner can block off availability from their Google Calendar, push events and appointments to their calendar. So there was a lot of that, and and the reporting needs too as well. I think
so.
Like
That's
Bradley.
Yeah, I mean the reporting's a big one for the studio, right? The numbers. So I think the studio world has pushed you guys along in that side of things, right? And for the needs that they have, and especially I think when they're coming from other platforms and they're saying we used to have this report. So probably a lot of that in the beginning, right?
Every studio is slightly different with what they want to track, but for the most part, I think we were fortunate to have a lot of people in our orbit. We weren't starting from scratch, right? We had momentum. We had a lot of people in our orbit. We had partners, so like I think we were in a good position to get started in a good way. And it's been fun. Like it's never done. We're always still learning. We're always still improving. That's just the nature of the thing. And so, but that's the fun part about it too.
Yeah. And so talking about you supporting and listening to your customers, what I think makes you guys unique is that you're really doubling down on supporting the people. And so like putting money behind helping the customers for sure. So you've created a studio only network where there's resources in there, on some of your tiers, and where you as the owners and other people from the company are in there helping support the studio owners, which I think is fantastic. Like seeing you and Arvin jump in there and answer a question, I think is fantastic. And that there's a face to the company owners is really nice. But you also go the extra mile and you hire me to come in twice a month and do group coaching calls for just the studio owners. So they get that free as part of that price tier package. So I'm really kind of curious why that's important. And because I think we've seen some big successes through this.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think, talking to a lot of studio owners and talking to a lot of yoga teachers, I think we understood that there's definitely some folks who just get it, and maybe they came from corporate, they had a corporate career, and they really understand like business, sales, and marketing. But this is a very passion-led industry, right? Like, there's a lot of first-time business owners. There's a lot of people who haven't done this before. And I mean, I could speak for myself as being a first-time business owner, first-time software business owner with OfferingTree. As a
hiring
first-time business owner, there's a lot to learn.
Hiring staff and expenses and
yeah. And so there's so many needs other than the software, but and so that's so apparent. And it's like, our mission is to try to make studios as successful as we can, right? And if we're only addressing the tools, we're kind of missing the bigger picture. And I was actually thinking about this before we chatted, and I was thinking about Home Depot. Home Depot you can walk into Home Depot and, buy saws, buy tools, but they also are smart enough to like provide a lot of educational content. And they have workshops and you can go in and like
go build a planter,
teach you how to tile. Yeah. So they get it too, right? Because it's similar. Like, it's DIY. Like, Home Depot, people are coming in and DIY their home. They're not. Sure, there's some people who are professionals that shop there, but a lot of people, aren't. And not to say that like, studio owners aren't professional operators of businesses. They are, but like oftentimes they're newer to it, and that's where we sit too, right? We're not quite there yet where we're serving the large franchise where they have like executives and things like that, and like chief operating officers and stuff. Like, the bread and butter of OfferingTree is those community yoga studios who are single operators. And, we're just trying to think of like, how can we help them more than just the software? Because I think we sit in a good place where like, they're in our orbit. Why not provide them with the education that we can? Because like, if we're all successful at the end of the day, that benefits us, but it benefits them. And
well, and I think, there is a difference between supporting a community studio and a franchise type studio, right? Where, nothing against that, but I feel like my expertise sits in the community studio world. Like, that's my world. That's where I've been in, right? And I feel like the franchise stuff, they've already got a lot of the stuff kind of figured out. Like, they've got playbooks for how to do marketing and sales scripts and all of that stuff. The community studio owner, usually it's somebody passionate that has come in to serve and doesn't have all that knowledge behind it.
I think like the franchise is all about scale, right? Like they figured it out on the micro level. Now they're really trying to scale, which is a totally different problem than figuring it out from day one. And I can relate to this as a business owner. It's like, with OfferingTree, I was like, okay, how do we build a product that people want? How do we talk about it? How do we market it? How do we do the sales thing, even though like sales might not feel good and we don't want to come off as salesy, but we also,
have to pay the bills and the staff and. Yeah.
And if you have a good product, like you want people to use it, and you want to convince people to, or, like, maybe convince is the wrong word, but give them an opportunity to know the value of it. Right. And so, I mean, I think studio owners are often in the exact same spot. Right. And so, just being there to help. And I think, like, obviously you provide a much higher level of coaching with Yoga Biz Champ, and we're not trying to do that necessarily, but we're trying to be sort of like that starting block of, like, offering just enough support to get them going, right? And to get them, like, some momentum and moving.
I mean, I have to say those 2 calls a month are one of the highlights of my month. I've got one today in an hour and a half. It's an OfferingTree day today. But it's a highlight of my month. I really do love it because it's community. But you came, I wanted to kind of, you hopped in on, you pop in now and then, right? And you came in, I think it was the last call a couple of weeks ago, and you hopped in. So I'd love to kind of, get your take on the vibe when you kind of jumped into that, what you sort of saw from it. Because I thought we had a fantastic
I loved
call.
it. Yeah. I mean, I was like, man, this call is really hopping. Like, I hope they're all with this. Like, we had a lot of people in there, a lot of questions, and you were just, you were like, it was like you had them on a lazy Susan.
Well, I feel like I'm the facilitator. Definitely.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where the ADHD comes in as a superpower.
No, I mean, you feel the excitement, you feel and it's like it's not only just the knowledge that they're acquiring or getting, or like the problem solving, but also just, like, I feel like the support and the collective energy is what
100%.
maybe what I feel.
Yeah.
Because it's like everyone's, and I do these things too with other software business owners, go and interact with them. And it's like, it's so cathartic to, talk about your problems, and maybe they don't get solved.
Yeah.
But, like, just to it can be very isolating
100%
to be a business owner.
Yeah.
And so you feel like you're like, maybe spiraling is the wrong word, but you're just toiling all by yourself, and you feel like it's very lonely. And to be working on this stuff with other people just like you, it creates a lot of energy, and you can feel that in the calls, and that's what's cool.
Yeah.
And people are getting something that they need.
What I love about it is it's not about me. Like, I feel like I'm the kind of facilitator, because what I love is leaning on each other to help each other. I think that's where the magic really, really happens in those calls, because Valerie comes on there. She's had a studio for 22 years. Well, I had a studio for the exact same, I had 13 years, but it's 22 years in now. And so she's got a lot that she can help people with, that are just starting out, like Sylvia, who has been on the podcast from O-Side, So Sylvia, we did her entire pre-launch, and there's a whole podcast episode about it on here. But we did her entire pre-launch together on those calls before she opened the doors, like the pre-sale and everything. And so what I love about it is we share our wins. So we come together every 2 weeks and share the wins. And I start every coaching call anyway that I do with wins. But we share our wins and then say what our needs are. And so I love that, because then everybody else can come together and help and say, oh, I did this. And so that, to me, that's the power of that community.
Yeah, I think you do a really good job of creating accountability too, right? And, like, it solves a lot of, I think it does solve a lot of issues for students.
Well, because we assign tasks as well.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, you're a taskmaster.
I am. Add it to the project board. But the tasks I think that's a little differentiator too, because we do say, hey, what are you going to get done between now and the next 2 weeks? And sometimes we get them to put those in the Mighty Networks community as well, so that it's like, it's out there. And then Sinead, who is just fantastic on there, she literally does a whole blast of, this is what everybody said they're going to do. So I love it. But I appreciate that support that you are invest. I know it comes at a cost, and even, you know, creating those non-Facebook groups and the marketing of all that and the people behind it. And so I wanted to say I really appreciate that you know, invest in those. I think it's, you know, you could just be doing software, but it's more than that. You're aware that there are people there behind it.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. And we really appreciate you on the calls. I mean, you provide so much value to these people. And I think what you also mentioned, like folks like Valerie who have been there, done that, right? It's very cool to see the different levels of where people are at and how they're learning from each other. And I think like even just I think that helps a lot too, right? Like they're with people who are maybe where they want to be in a year or two or three.
Yeah.
And so to have that sort of gives them a little bit of confidence that that like, okay, maybe I haven't done this before, but I'm in a place where I can learn from others who are at where I want to be.
Yeah. And so your tools have evolved now. And I'm always saying this, you know, and I'm hoping studio owners are listening to this, you know, that I hope you're not just doing the bare basics here, because now a community studio has franchise level software tools. And so you have evolved. So we kind of came together, and I created a Yoga Biz Champ intro offer, one of the first kind of template intro offers of your email automations for your marketing side. And so now, you know, you've evolved into the Google Calendar sync, which is a big one because two-way syncing is not easy. I know that. And so now you've got all these extra tools like automate, you know, you've already got website, you've got the on-demand stuff, reporting has evolved. So now we're kind of into that next level, which I think is the softwares are all turning into CRM marketing machines as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we're leaning into that as well. So, you know, we're about to launch, like, I don't know when this is going to air, but by the time it airs, it might be out, SMS capabilities too. So we're really thinking of our automations as sort of like a workflow engine, and we're adding things to it, right? So today, you know, you can do things like send emails, add tags to contacts, and things like that. But like, you know, soon you'll be able to send text messages via automations and then have two-way text conversations if they reply. And we'll be adding like tasks pretty soon to the automation engine. So you can create tasks when certain things happen. And so, you know, the automations are just going to become quite a bit more powerful in the next few months as we start adding more to the platform. But yeah, we're definitely leaning in. We're talking, you know, we're going to be doing more with like lead management and things like that. So that's to come later this year as well. So, but really leaning in on the CRM. And also I think there's going to be some page builder improvements, you know, because web pages are always evolving, and we want to make sure that like people can, you know, and you don't have to use our page builder, like all of our widgets, all of our booking and scheduling, and
so if somebody already has
widgets,
if somebody already has a WordPress or Squarespace site, you can still integrate with that.
Yeah, happens all the time. Like, oh, I spent, you know, $15,000 on this site, and like I don't want to dump it, and it's like you know, keep using it. So but for the folks who, you know, don't work with a designer or can't afford it, you know, we do have our website builder. So
so talking about wins, you know, some of the people that we've been coaching and have been come onto the studio platform, you know, when you came on the coaching call, it was pretty cool to, you know, let's talk about a few of them. Jessica, who went on vacation but pre-sold her entire season while she was on vacation. I mean, that was pretty cool.
That was cool. And Jessica, shout out to Jessica. I'm in Minnesota. She's in Minnesota too. She's in northern Minnesota in Duluth, which is very beautiful. It's also very cold in the wintertime. So for her to be able to get out, I can't remember where she went. I think it was like maybe Mexico. But for her to be able to like leave her business, that's like a dream for a lot of people, right? Well, like they just feel like they can't leave. And so for her to be able to like learn from you, learn to use the tools, so that she could afford to leave for a few weeks.
I mean, she learned how to do sales landing pages, build a series around needs, like signature series, and then learned how to pre-sell them while she was on vacation. So yeah, some pretty cool wins that we're seeing. Oside opening their studio, Sylvia, who was just recently on this podcast. From Yoga for One, launching her unique faith-based studio. Both her and her husband come on the call and get as much out of the calls. And yeah, so it's pretty I love seeing the wins. What's next for the studio and OfferingTree? So you got SMS, you got calendar integration.
Yeah, we got calendar integrations out. SMS is going to be coming out. Like, I don't know when you're listening to this, but probably in the middle of May of 2025, we're going to have SMS out. So we're excited about that. And I think, in the near future, we have tasks. So Michael won't be the only one who can assign tasks. You'll be able to assign tasks as well. And just more like power around automations and CRM and lead tracking and lead management. We do have some functionality around that, but really like making that easier for folks to track leads in a kind of a custom way. Like, what does a lead mean to you? Maybe they bought an intro offer, maybe they came to a drop-in. And then the convert, like what does it mean to like convert those leads? Does that mean like they're a monthly member, or does it mean they just bought a package? So like kind of providing some cool flexibility there and just better observability into like who are the people in your orbit and making it a little easier to acquire. So
I forgot, you also just launched a very well priced app as well.
Yeah, you can have your own.
So custom app, custom.
Yeah, forgot about that too. But we had, we always had the OfferingTree app that everybody can use for free if you're on OfferingTree. But we just launched our branded mobile app, so you can have your own app in the App Store with that can be customized to your branding. So that's pretty exciting, and I think we're running a promo on that right now.
Yeah, there is a promo if you're listening to the ads on here, and it's in the show notes as well. But yeah, there is a good discount on that. This podcast will date, but I think the promo goes to mid May 2025.
Yeah, what year is it?
Yeah, but and I also, on that, because it is a good price, I just want to, I'm curious because your pricing is very good. It's not cheap, but it's very fair for the different. Was that important to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think we always, we strive to be the best value in the market, which doesn't necessarily mean it's the cheapest, but it's not like for all of the functionality that we offer. I think it's very reasonable when you look at like what you're getting with the software with OfferingTree. How much you're going to pay at the end of the month is much less than a lot of the other companies out there with the same functionality. So, we're definitely trying to be extremely fair and a really good value, and that's important because we want people to be able to use it. We want to be accessible. Like, that's an important thing for me, is to make sure that our software is accessible and like people can use it. Because it, I think it does, with everything we're offering, we're trying, like, our mission is to try to make studio owners the most successful that we can. And part of that is like, if we're cost prohibitive and they can't use the tools that they need to be successful, then that's a problem. So
yeah. And I like the way you've laid it out, your packages, because it's like you can get in really cheap, at a really good base price, but then you can evolve with the software, I think, as your business evolves.
Yeah, if you're a smaller studio, like it makes sense to not have to pay as much. So, we're trying to be accessible and not be cost prohibitive, but also provide a lot of really good value, and that's with the software, but also with the support. And like customer support, we have office hours too, multiple times a week, where you can drop in and get like one-on-ones well, maybe not one-on-one if it's office hours. There might be a couple people on the call, but you can get,
no, that's been a game changer. Honestly, that's been a game changer. And the calls, because I never focus on the technicalities of the call. People always want to talk about the software on the call. I'm like, no, that's not what this is about. But go to office hours because you can go get your questions addressed right there and there.
Yep. Yeah. So, I think we're trying to do everything we can to make people the most successful as possible. And I hope everyone's feeling that. But yeah, I mean, we feel excited and privileged to be just in a position where we can help this industry. Like I said before, it's a really cool industry, the health, wellness, fitness industry. People are in service to their community, and we're trying to reflect that and do the same thing. Yeah.
We'll leave it there. Thank you, Eddie. Yeah. Thanks for coming on today. Yeah, thanks for coming on. Honestly, it's been a great relationship for me as a partnership, and I really appreciate you also sponsoring this podcast, because that enables me to have these amazing people. As you're growing, I'm growing, and I'm able to now have a video and audio editor and a writer, and be able to be publishing every 2 weeks now. So that's thanks to your partnership as well. So I really appreciate it, and thank you for sharing your story and how you're really helping. You truly are really helping our industry. So thanks for coming on today.
Well, thanks for having me, Michael. And it's a pleasure to support you, and you're doing great stuff. So we'll see you on the coaching calls.
You bet. In an hour and a half. Thanks for tuning in, champs. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to this channel. It means a lot. And if you're ready to open your own studio or grow your current one, visit yogabizchamp.link/YouTube to book your free strategy call with myself and explore my Starter Studio and Grower Studio packages. And you'll also get access to all of my free Yoga Biz Champ resources, yogabizchamp.link/YouTube. And you can check out other insights and follow me on all social media platforms at Yoga Biz Champ. See you next time.